All right. Hello. Welcome everyone back to a holiday edition of the Happy Hour show. It's just me. I'm so runry. Where's Funding Jim and Coffee and Motley and Big K and all my friends? I just feel like, I've been neglected here this holiday season. Actually, I know Motley's traveling. Who knows where Big K is? Funding Jim might be here in a little bit. We were supposed to have Eric Wall in, and that got delayed. He has been sick all week, actually. And so we've been in communication. He's not going to flake out on us or anything like that. So no worries about that. This could be the quickest show in history. I have, had some topics to talk about with some guests, but I can talk about them with you. Have some charts to share. Funding Jim, I think you're on the old link. So go check your Telegram. I think I sent the new link, unless I sent you the old link. So yeah, let's live television, peeps, live TV. There you go. I think I might have sent you the right one. Yeah, I sent you the right one. Anyway, what's there to talk about? I mean, we can talk about charts. We can talk about, I don't know, pretty much do an AMA while we wait. And just say hello to everybody who's in the chat already. What's up, Hex Logic? Let go, Alex P. Crypto Crusader, how's it going? Cashew, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Ewok, Merry Christmas to all the Hexagons. Vets in Crypto, what's going on? Ho, ho, ho. Let's effing go. What's going on, Scott? Travis Peak, what's going on? Great to see everybody. And in the green room, hello.
I don't see your camera, but I see a black screen.
Well, this is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I hear your voice, and let me check the
I'm looking at the YouTube stream, and it looks all right. I look frozen for whatever reason, which is weird.
Yeah, on the StreamYard link, let me see. I do see you on the YouTube channel, so people, I think, are seeing both people. Now I see you on StreamYard. Now I see you on both. Okay.
Okay. I think my connection reset or something like that. But anyway, how you doing? Merry Christmas.
Merry.
Or Merry Christmas Eve.
Eve. 2 Eves prior to Eve.
Yeah. So I was okay, it clears up eventually, says Vets. So yeah, good to know. It looks like it's clearing up whatever issue I was having there. I think I went hardwire. That's why. Looks like you got the raid from DJ Cryptomatic. What's going on? Everybody who came over from over there. Stephen Thomas, Merry Christmas to you. Sandy Beach, Merry Christmas to you. We're in the holiday spirit. There he is, Mr. DJ Cryptomatic, who had just an awesome set yesterday, full of all the Hexagon personalities. Did you get to check that out there, Gary?
No, I've been traveling a lot. I'm in the mountains of South America, so I've been offline a lot.
Gotcha. Worthy excuse. What are you doing in South America?
Yeah, there's a lot of people are looking at different assets around the world. And I think South America, in certain places, like I've lived in most of the U.S. major cities, and there's this pervasive fear of chaos, I think, since 2020.
Yep.
And I've been looking outside of our ecosystem of United States continental a lot. And I find it actually in certain places, certain countries, certain cities, safer than most of the major cities in the U.S.
Got it. And I mean, build in a bear, right? And onboard in a bear. I mean, I onboarded probably plenty of people in the 10 to 20 cent range, and it's harder to get them to DCA in. I'm finding that, and I wish I could have maybe onboarded them now, but of course it's a bear market for everyone now. So everyone, possibly feels a little less wealthy, not even if you're just in Hex, but across the board. I mean, it's kind of like what the Fed is doing in a sense. They want you to not spend money. They want to bring prices down, and they want you to feel poor. They want you to, want people to have less work. They want stock portfolios to come down. I mean, it sounds awful, but it's the truth. That's what we're in right now. So, but at the same time, those onboards could be, possibly so pleased in the next year or two if you can close it and, show them the light, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Fed. As much as I see the hashtag in the Fed, most of the content providers that I've followed over the past 10 or 12 years, they all say the same thing, sound money, gold, silver, real estate in the Fed causes bubbles, which is true. And yet it's still, even though you may have a philosophical want to go against the Fed and not pay attention to the Fed with your own investment thesis, it's impossible. I think that, Brandon from Rags to Riches covers it quite a bit. And I like watching his content when he talks about the Fed, especially. And I think that right now we're in the first phase of the three-phase pivot. So until the Fed starts to cut rates and until basically unemployment rises significantly, which is one of their indicators, I don't see any asset necessarily going up, unless it is a core group of grassroots, people like Hex and Hexicans and things like that are enthusiastic about out of all the asset classes, crypto hyper performing as a leverage position on stock, and stock hyper performing on a leverage position of the rest of what the Fed is impacting. Then I think Hex is a great position inside of the crypto ecosystem. And yet I run into the same thing. I onboarded a lot of people, millions and millions of dollars worth of purchases at the 17 to 20 cent range also. And some have, even gone in and DCA'd to a degree around the 4 or 5 cent mark. Similarly, like they said, hey, I'm going to put another 400 grand or 500 grand in. So it's still happening. People are still DCAing to a degree. It depends on, do they have a lot of experience with speculative instruments? Have they played this game in other markets before? And if they have, then they really don't have as much of an issue. If they are basically, someone that, is in a somewhat of a fear position about their employment or their source of income that's not from speculation or from, assets themselves throwing off cash, then, they're going to be more tight-fisted with where they put their DCA funds.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a super chat. What's up? Fiat. What's going on? Merry Hexmas. 2023 is going to be the best opportunity since 2020. I like it. And going off of what you were saying there, Funding Jim, I think the key to the end of this is employment. I said it last week. I think inflation is killed. It would not shock me at all to see possibly by February inflation back under 5%. Mm-hmm. I think the Fed has killed it. It's coming down faster than anyone realizes. The trick is the jobs number, and it's okay. Well, half of the job is done with inflation, but the jobs number I think is the wild card, and it's like how much do they press on that before something actually breaks, which I think is the main fear, and which is why the markets are acting kind of in limbo the way they are. And I'll pull up a chart of the S&P, if you want to respond to that.
Sure.
But I mean, this is one of the charts I've kept an eye on for a while, the 200-day, and it's kind of pretty much followed in lockstep. I mean, this goes back to 2018, but let's really take it back to 2008, pretty much after that big crash. We've been in one gigantic channel all the way up, so that's what it looks like when you were zoomed in there, and we've pretty much hung in on the top half of this all the way, and we're pretty much right in the top half right now. We visited the bottom of it twice, once back in 2008, and of course the COVID bottom, which we're looking at right there. And now we're kind of just holding up by the 200 day and or 200 week, I should say, whatever. And we're above it. Can we go lower? Yeah. Where would we go? What is the bottom of the channel tomorrow? If like Tuesday, we go straight to the bottom of the channel, we're at 29.50. So that's a long way down. A lot of people are calling for 3,400, which would mean we would bust the 200. They're, most everybody's bearish, so I think that's the good thing, right? And more good, smart Wall Street minds that I'm seeing are getting more and more bearish, which kind of makes me get a little more bullish in the coming months. Maybe by March or so, which would be funny because I think 4 of the last major bottoms have occurred in March. So that'd be great if, we got out of it then.
I mean, everyone has their bias, and I have mine too. And certainly it's not advice for others. It's just, maybe indicators of what you should research for yourself when you are doing your own investment thesis. To me, I think you should look at the presidential election cycle. You should look at basically the narrative that leads up to election. Are you still here, Cabana? You disappeared.
Yeah, I'm just trying to reset my connection. Go ahead. I'll pop out and pop back in.
Yeah. So that happens November of 2024. And what does a sitting president or, all of the different support for that president want come election day? What they would like to be able to report most likely is, look, we've brought unemployment down. Now more people are employed. They would probably like to report close to those elections that stock values are up, that asset values of your home is up, that, everything that you have speculated on in 23 into 24 is done better as a metric. I see that Biden right now is tweeting a lot about this Christmas, your round trip home in gas than last year. Right. So they cling to every little bit of metric that they can, no matter who the sitting president is. It doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. Every election cycle wants that framing. And, as far as what I tend to believe of the commentators in the macroeconomic space, like Santiago Capital, it's Brent Johnson that does the dollar milkshake theory. It's a friend of mine, lives in Puerto Rico. His tweets are excellent. Same thing with George Gammon or others that I tend to listen to closely. I like their narrative. It seems to make sense. If you look at it and you track it over time with other presidential elections and other macroeconomic cycles, seems to fit well. That likely the rest of 22, and again, I can't speak about HEX, the product specifically. There's outliers in every asset class. But in general, I think that the easiest place for newly printed Fed money to go is the stock market. That's the first place we saw impact when COVID or, hyper printing started to happen when everyone was being locked down, in 2020. And we saw those asset prices of stocks go through the roof, after the initial fear of a push down in price, things like Carnival Cruises or, things that are AMC, where people probably in 2020 weren't going to be seeing, 500 person seating public movie theater content very often. So you saw certain stocks that went down because of those narratives, but you saw other ones hyper perform in a comeback, basically. And that was basically, I think, I tend to believe it's the impact of the easy flow of PPP money, which is basically, monies of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that went to individual businesses. And then they could reallocate those funds, and some of it not even have to be repaid. So it was effectively loans that didn't have a repayment schedule. Or you saw, airdrops of $2,000 per citizen, family of 5, 3 kids in their teens and 2 parents, were making, 10 grand, from 5 different checks several times. So those hyper printing of, I think around $6 trillion got printed during 20 and 21, and $6 trillion. But put in comparison, all the tax revenue from those years, each of those years was about $1.5 trillion was tax revenue. and then 4 times that effectively was printed new monies. So I think you're going to see those impacts. That's what's playing out now with the inflation narrative. That's what's played out over the past year or so and still going. But it's always been a road that couldn't, a can that had to be kicked down the road, but doesn't really have a solution other than kicking it down the road, as far as the corner that the government is painted into in their hyper printing motives. So I think that 2023 will be basically the pause, where raising of interest rates, if they are effectively causing unemployment and they're effectively bringing down asset value, like real estate prices, if your mortgage is 7% and it's unheard of to recent or new buyers to hear that kind of interest rate, then that's probably going to cool off the price of a home itself or of commercial property and things. And same thing with stock. The stock market hyper performing as far as ROI or increase of your purchasing power. I think they want to tame that a bit so that they can show it increasing and rising in 2024. So I think my impression is that 23 is basically an accumulation window, and until the rates start to cut, basically the pivot happens. And then typically, if you look at the charts, 60 to 90 days after the pivot, you'll still see the price go down when the pivot changes. Usually you'll see that the interest rates cut, but it's a lagging impact. And so typically 60 to 90 days after the rates start to come down is when you'll usually see the kickoff of a bull. And this may be the biggest bull in all of my lifetime in 24.
See, I'm sorry for the delay there. I'm listening to you on YouTube actually because I can't hear you in the studio. So could you possibly try going out and coming back in? And I think we've resolved the video issues. We just need to resolve the audio.
Yeah, you were really.
I'll continue talking. Pick
very
up
earlier.
there if you
I'm going to
back
exit.
out
I'll be right back.
and
All right.
come back in. YouTube can hear you fine, but I can't. All right, but yeah, I agree with that. I don't like the another year of accumulation thing, but I mean, if it's what we have to do, it's what we have to do, right? I feel like I've been, kind of accumulating probably since maybe a little since the summer, maybe June-ish, and much more so in October. Are we there, Gary?
Let's do a timing test.
No,
I just said something.
What is going on?
I have audio. I can hear you on the
stream. Yeah, you're fine on YouTube, but I can't hear you. So we'll.
Strange.
Yeah. So I'll just watch for your mouth to move, and I'll shut up when you're talking. But yeah, for whatever reason, you're not. I have no audio of you in the studio. But pretty much what I was saying while you were out there is, I feel like I've been in an accumulation phase, maybe a little since June. Picked back up probably October. We had that recent low there. And, I don't want to be accumulating all for 2023, maybe the first half or so. But if that's the case, that's the case. Because really, I mean, if you look past it, this is an opportunity for pretty much lifelong wealth accumulation. So if the window is longer, for that, you're kind of getting a bonus opportunity to possibly, make some life-changing, moves here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just saw something recently. I think it was Grant Cardone who posted a link, and it's a known thing. He just reposted some old content saying that the average millionaire has 7 income streams. The average millionaire has 7 income streams. So, you hear it when there's commentary about the crypto space when it comes to bull and bear cycles, that you're basically, can you hear me? You're building during the bear your content or your product, and then you are basically capitalizing on the popularity of that product during the bull, basically. So if you are employed and that is your source of income that supports your lifestyle and home, then you have extra monies above that that you're speculating. Maybe you buy a classic car to fix up. Maybe you add an additional dwelling unit on your property that you can rent out on Airbnb. Maybe you speculate in cryptocurrency and you say, I'm going to throw $500 at this or $1,000 at that, right? Those typically, unless you win a lottery ticket, those don't usually impact your lifestyle completely. They add to it, and they may selling, or how hard you go at your business productivity, but it doesn't necessarily change your life or lifestyle. You should be setting up as many pass and my early on. Estate tends to be one of those things, like rental markets. You can always choose what your rate will be for the product you're delivering to the public that's asking for it, like what kind of housing or what kind of commercial space that you're providing. Same thing with your intellectual property. If you are investing into understanding a niche topic, and then you're investing into delivering that topic to the masses through social media platforms, then you can monetize your product, right? Which is your investment of your time and your intellect to understand a niche, whatever that niche is. Then you can monetize that. So I think that 23, even though it's quote unquote an accumulation phase, when it comes to your assets that may overperform in their equity value, or they may overperform in their cash flow in the future, this is still the time to improve on yourself and your own specialization, I would think. That's my thought.
As we wait for the delay, and there it is. All right. I feel like some of those satellite TV shows where they wait, it's like 5 seconds, and that's what we're going through here. But hey, live TV. I had a couple of other items on the list here. I mean, I figured, if it's just us or coffee or whoever, was here, we could, just look back, briefly on 2022 and briefly ahead, which we have been doing a little bit to 2023. Do you have, I guess, a favorite moment in the Richard Hart ecosystem of 2022? It could be a meetup, it could be a favorite Richard Hart live stream, could be multiple different things. I was just putting this together, and I was just like, what, it's been a bear, and one heck of a bear. Like what I really liked out of this past year, I one of the things just came to mind, I don't know why, was his stream with Ivan on Tech. I just thought it was a great crypto conversation, and they covered a lot, and it was very on point with subject matter, PulseChain, and that was probably, I felt, one of the more informative streams, since we haven't gotten really much information out of Richard, probably by design, over the past few months. But any favorite moments or standout parts of 2022 before we look to 2023?
I think the easiest, comment to make is about, what did Richard Hart do for me most recently? It's almost like that Janet Jackson song, "What did you do for me?" Right? What have you done for me lately? I think that's the song. And I kind of want to get away from that in 23 and 24. And I think that our community is, one, pretty strong, very strong. I do see infighting, and that's nothing that's different. I mean, 3 years ago, we probably had people that came into the community, exited the community in a huff. There's some people that will have we will headbutt every so often. I'll headbutt somebody myself, and it will be in the Twitter Spaces or something along those lines. We're human beings, we're fallible, we have emotions, sometimes driving us more than the logic. So I think that the easy thing to point at, especially when it comes to price or narrative or popularity of the Hex product is to say, what did Richard Hart do? Who did he engage? How many people liked his Twitter space or hated his content or comment or post, right? That's really kind of the lazy way out of responsibility for how the Hex product performs, in my opinion, right? We have great leadership. You guys stream very often, at least once a week with the happy hour. Crypto Coffee creates content regularly, and he goes through the metrics, comparing to other products in the crypto space or other products of speculation, outside of crypto. I think that we have these meetups and things like that. That's great for us to basically come together and have some kind of social reinforcement of our beliefs, right? What our belief systems may be about the value of locking up, a financial instrument for a certain amount of time with a yield. Like we can talk about those things amongst ourselves and reinforce our social conviction, basically, to the product or to the narratives. I think that those things should shine in 23 and 24. It will be easier when price is going up, right? But what is the solution for prices going down? Buying. What is the solution for enthusiasm and things like that? It is conviction. Like, what is your conviction? It's interesting that you said something about dollar cost averaging, which is, you might not want to, but you really have to ask yourself, why am I in any instrument? Why would I be in Tesla? Why would I be in Google? Why would I be in Twitter if it was still a publicly traded option? Why would you choose to support some particular product other than the price go up, right? If the price go up affects all of the market, there's certainly plenty of cryptocurrencies that will perform, whether or not they have immutable code, admin key free, whether or not they have a history of some known or unknown founder and their convictions to their own product or to their own designs. That's something you have to answer for yourself, right? And if you answer it for yourself after research, do you answer it in such a strong way that you speak to others about it, really, right? Because we can put social media on content out there. There can be 10 or 12 or 20 of us that stream or put content in different context, on TikTok and Instagram, and post the latest meme or something like that. But it really comes down to personal referral, personal contact, building our own communication skills. I think is very important for the new generation, right? And holding yourself accountable when things go poorly. If you are talking about a different product or a different asset, and your following somehow speculates based on your public declarations, right? So we have some amazing streamers. I am super proud of how eloquent and diplomatic that Corey is from Corey Costa's crypto channel. He's been able to engage some pretty significant influencers in the crypto space over the past 3 to 5 months, something like that. I think that he's had Eric Wall and BitBoy and Crypto Wendy, and obviously all of the top names that have been talking about Hex for quite some time. So I think he does great in that diplomacy. And when you look at I don't know if you look at all of the likes. I think that if I look at the likes of content that he creates, even if it's not about a Hex product or a Richard Hart ecosystem theme, I think that a majority of his likes and follows are hexagon logo avatar holding people. Like, that's the majority, right? So I know that we're strong in the community, even when the product that's being talked about isn't necessarily ours. And I think that, if there is accountability to be said, Trayvon likes to talk about Hex for a while, and then he likes to talk about other things for a while. And sometimes he gets irritated with hexagons, and sometimes hexagons get irritated with him, right? But you got to look at the net positive. Like, what is the net positive? Is this person finding themselves accountable for what they say? Because they are benefiting from the influence. They are creating influence. They are moving charts. They are picking up adoption or decreasing adoption about a particular product because of their commentary. So, I mean, I think that people just need to be in my opinion, socially responsible and, reap in a positive way what they sow from their influence, and reap in a negative way what they sow from their influence as well. It's accountability.
Agreed, and very well said, as I come back from the delay once again. But yeah, Vets in Crypto, a lot of positivity in the chat. Everything will be okay, and it will. I mean, bears come to an end. It's just how long does it take before some of these come to an end? A lot of people are trying to compare bears to 2015 or 2018, and I think that's kind of like a coping mechanism in a way. It's like, okay, well, what can we look to, hopefully within the past 10 years that, we can see a way out of this, somehow. And of course we have the fear, greed, depression chart that everyone has seen by now. That's another one. It's like, okay, well, where are we in the cycle? Are we in anger? Are we in depression? There's a lot of that going around right now, and I think we're kind of on the back half of that, but it's like how much longer will we have to endure? That's the question, and the longer it goes, the more and more people wear out. And I guess it is good for price and long term, because it does shake out, sadly, maybe some of the stronger ones that hung on almost all the way until the end, and they finally capitulate, and it's just like, enough of this, and that's it. So in terms of PulseChain, I keep going back when I'm thinking about it, and everybody's like, we're kind of like in an anger phase, and it hasn't even launched yet. But I could see it in the community. I could see it in certain chat rooms, and there's just not good vibes. I'll put it that way, from some parties, and I liken it back to the adoption amplifier. And this is we're in a longer time scale now, but I liken it back to, say, the first 30-40 days of the adoption amplifier, kind of like when we were at like 1 Satoshi, and there was a lot of anger, I remember, and a lot of hate. Like, hate was at its peak. Everybody from the outside is like, oh, you guys got scammed. You have the unwise nightly moment, and so many things that kind of made that bottom, not knowing what we were looking at the time, but that was kind of like the worst that things got. I say we're kind of going through that now, because we're in this lull period. We're in the bear. I think we're gonna get a test net probably here in the next couple of months, if that, maybe a month, and probably a launch of Pulse by spring. That's just my opinion, but it's this time right now is kind of just like prolonged lull that everybody is at each other's throats, or not everybody, but a lot of people are angry at Richard, and the vibe feels to me the same as that point early on in the adoption amplifier. And once we had Godwill come in, it was like, everything's going to be all right. And I think once we maybe get to V3, that positive energy will slowly come back. And of course, once we get launch, it'll be like, man, what were we doing? We were just arguing and complaining, and we were mad at Richard, and we were yada yada yada. And we're gonna look back at it again, I think, and be like, yeah, remember back then when we were just not very comfortable. And it's going to be fun to look at, but right now it's not, because we're going through it, and we're seeing people get a little upset, and that's part of it. But we will make it out of this. But I do liken it to that first part of the adoption amplifier phase, because I lived it. I was there. I saw people at each other's throats. I saw the disbelief. I saw the anger. I saw the outsider hate, and the leading up to PulseChain, I get those vibes, and we're going to come out of it.
Well, the big thing is, again, the community. What is the value? What are the values that the community is espousing? And I say that because it does harden the conviction of the people that are involved in public and saying such things. And then there's, I think even recently there's a change to Twitter. You can see how many impressions your tweet has instead of only how many likes or retweets or comments that it has. And I think it's something like 100 to 1. It may be even more on other content creators' tweets, as far as a ratio of how many are viewed and maybe absorbed as someone scrolls through and reads their content, versus taking the time to even hit a little heart button and indicate that you liked or agreed with something or disagreed with something. So I think it's the same thing with our messaging on YouTube. We can see things like how many plays. If you are a content creator, you can see when people, they watched 5 minutes of your 30-minute stream, things like that. And we can kind of infer what our impact may be. But Twitter is one of those things that until recently, you didn't really know that impact. So I think that that's going to help us in some ways on our tuning, on our hashtagging, on our SEO of the message that we're trying to get out about, PulseChain and PulseX and, all the derivatives basically of Hex, on different platforms or different L1s. Like, it's funny that I see a lot of content creators in the Hex ecosystem talking about Pulse Bitcoin or ASICs or, the opportunities in other derivatives. But there's not that much content that was generated about the Ethereum L proof of work fork, or proof of fair, or whatever these other forks. So it's just interesting that people want new things in general, and they want to see performance that mimics, if not replicates, what happened with Hex, the first launch. And the first launch was on Ethereum when it was less than a penny to stake, and it was less than a penny or a couple of pennies to unstake, a relatively short stake of 6 months or a year or something like that. And then you saw the bull basically take over of cryptocurrency's whole marketplace, increasing the price of these transactions on Ethereum for all cryptocurrencies, especially in Hex's case, because we do that S-load function that has a price attached to it. So it's interesting that we want to have a performance of a product that mimics Hex, and Hex actually mimicked Ethereum, with its goal of, 14,000x within 2.5 years, or something within, I think, 10,000x within 2 years, whatever our original commentary was, back in 2019 into 20. And I think that, when PulseChain launches, yes, you're going to have a fork, but I think that some of that narrative will come back about, look what Hex did when it was low transaction cost at the very beginnings of a bull market on Ethereum, or when Uniswap was introduced and people could actually trade on a DEX that was worth a shit. So I think that same thing might happen. It's a speculation that I'm willing to build into my own investment thesis, that Hex itself will again be called Hex on PulseChain, and Ethereum, or Hex ETH, will be whatever Richard's calling the Ethereum version. And I tend to think that 10,000x from a dollar price point position will replicate on PulseChain when we really have no transaction frictions by comparison to Ethereum at all. So as far as the Hex product itself, I know that when you do the math now, you go to maybe buy $1,000 worth of Hex, you see what the transaction was to perform. Even in the bear market right now, it's really, really, really inexpensive to purchase. And then you say, what is my horizon? Am I looking at 60 days out and seeing if I'm going to ROI? You're probably not. I mean, you do the math. I don't think that you would. There's all kinds of tools that you can do those measurements. If you look at 2 or 3 years out and you say, what is the comparison to other things that would give me a yield versus the risk profile of being, in a centralized platform or something like that, or, some kind of banking yield or something along those lines. What is your actual risk as far as the code awarding you, Hex on Hex return? Like, look at those things. And I have seen a lot more people making comment, which, we tried to avoid in general in 2019. I think a lot of commentary from Richard, really influenced us to stake long and look at these longer horizons, and maybe our birthday or our anniversary or once a year for when a stake would be coming out, instead of trying to overlay that with some of the market cycles. So if basically cryptocurrency looks at the halvening as a reference point on Bitcoin, even if Bitcoin is not, the dominant cryptocurrency in 24, it may not be market share dominant. It's probably going to be other things. It may be Ethereum. It may be other other crypto L1s that have greater market share of the whole market. But if you look at that as a whole cycle, and then you look at the potential of the Fed pivot bringing down interest rates, and then you look at, the potential of people pulling equity out of their real estate or out of their business, or being able to take a loan against some asset, the way that Elon did to purchase Twitter. He took a loan against his Tesla stock. He didn't sell his Tesla stock. So if you start to learn some of these principles during 22 and 23, that's why I tend to think that in 24 will be the biggest bull market, the beginnings of a 2 to 3 or 4 year long bull cycle, is my opinion, right? It's good timing for me in my age group. It's the last hurrah for me, basically, of playing a market cycle. But, that's why I focus on, increasing income instead of having to sell an asset. If you're living off of cryptocurrency, if you're living off of the narrative of 2019's performance in Hex or Ethereum or something like that, you really only can be sell pressure on the product that you love. That's all you can do. If that's your only income source, even if you're only selling the yield as stakes come out or whatever your narrative may be, you're only adding sell pressure. And I think that, it's a great asset. I think it's going to have its rise. I think it's going to be on a different L1 of PulseChain, and the timing of the presidential cycle with the Fed pivot cycle seems to align with a late 23, early 24 beginnings of a bull. And this is the time to get the prices that you choose in any asset that you choose. It needs to be your responsibility for your investments, or your speculations. So if you see some undeveloped piece of land and you're going to convert it into a rental property, if you see some stock that you think is going to have a boom in 24 or 23 into 24, if you have some idea that's been rattling around in your head as a business idea, and you want to, basically start building that now, and its marketing and product now in 22 and 23, so that it has its hyper performance 2 years in. That's typically what happens in startup culture. Is it typically takes from the launch of your idea and your speculation and your foundation, it typically takes about 2 years, not just to get into the black, from debt, but basically for virality or some kind of, critical mass of its popularity to occur. That's what happened with Hex. That's what happens with most startups that are successful. Is it takes about 2 years, 2 to 3 years before you have a real momentum.
And delay. Well, thank you for that. And I apologize if I'm nodding at the wrong moments. So, because you're in a 5-second delay, so you can literally say, Cabana likes getting hit in the head with a hammer 5 seconds later, and be like, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And then, anyway, all good points. And I agree with the selling of crypto. I mean, Richard Hart has mentioned it, I don't know how many times, and he doesn't like the term full-time crypto, because if you're full-time crypto, then you're a net seller, and that's pretty much all you're doing is creating negative price action. So this is going to be tricky. So I have Coffee in the green room. So I don't know if Coffee knows that, we've had audio issues. So basically, Coffee, I cannot hear Funding Jim in the actual studio, so I'm using the YouTube audio to listen to him. Can I hear you, Coffee?
Let's find out.
Nope, I can't hear you either. So I'm just going to listen to you and on YouTube. And once I'm done talking, then you guys
check your
have
output
at it, and I'll
check to make sure that your output is coming into the speakers.
Where was I? Yeah, so net sellers, and you brought up a great point there, Gary. It's like, if you can keep working, keep that fiat coming in, you're only doing yourself the greatest of favors by being able to DCA at these times, because the market's coming down. You want to DCA at lower prices instead of, say, 20, 30 cents, and granted, people bought then. I bought some then too. So
I bought in the 40s.
Yes, Motley Investor. Cabana's audio is the jacked up one. But anyway, I'll welcome coffee, since I can't hear you all listen to you, say hey on the YouTube end of things, but I'm probably got like a 5-second delay. But yeah, we're just going over a little bit of 2022. Looking forward to 2023. So thanks for coming on. Any favorite parts, I guess? We just briefly touched on 2022. Anything stand out to you, kind of like looking back at the Richard Hart ecosystem? Any favorite moments, a favorite live stream, meetup, what have you? Just any favorite time in that bearish year?
Yeah, it's good to try to look back and figure out the bright side of the bear market, because it can be pretty depressing and it can be pretty bad for some people. But hey, at least we weren't in things like Voyager, Celsius, FTX. I think that's my favorite part about all this stuff, is that I just didn't get wrecked like so many people did. And it's been a time to refocus and rebuild. Obviously, I love the real life meetups. Those are always fun. They give me so much inspiration, motivation, because it's nice to know that you're all real people and, not just heads on a screen. And it just gives me more conviction that we're not going anywhere at all. So cheers to all you guys out there. If you're still here at the end of 2022, bringing in the new year and Christmas, at the bottom of the bear market, it's definitely tough to be here. But guess what? You could have lost all your money in FTX. You could have lost all your money in Celsius and so many other platforms that try to demonize Hex while, basically doing the exact thing that crypto is invented to get rid of. And so many other people went along for the ride, promoting all that crap. I mean, you guys are in the right place. Everybody watching right now, you're in the right asset class. I think you're in the right asset, right? It's real DeFi. And I think it's a good place to be. Well, everything is crumbling around us. We're still here. We're still here. And I know it feels bad when your coin is down, right? I know it feels bad, but you got to realize that if you didn't take profits at the top, which obviously nobody took as much profit as they wish they did at the top, but assuming you're still holding any asset, they're all down across the board. So let's, when haters try to come at you with the, oh, look, your coin's down 95% type of thing, just realize that their assets probably down 85 or 90%, if not 95. Most altcoins are on the same level as Hex right now in terms of percentage drop. If you want to cherry pick the absolute top, yeah, we're all down bad. So it's like Richard says, it's dudes down 75% trying to make fun of dudes down 85%. It's like, yeah, we're all destroyed. Even if you bought Tesla or any tech stock, if you're holding a real asset, we're all down together. So it's rough, but we're all down together. And it's not a time to try to pick on people for their coin being a scam just because it's down. Just realize that you're holding something that can't be shut off, that can't be hacked, that has 100% uptime, that has massive price potential when the bull market comes back. Whatever that looks like, I'm not sure. It might not be as clear cut of a bull market as we're used to seeing. We might have some weird wobbly action with the Fed pivot, and then maybe they retract on their pivot. I mean, it's really all macro right now. So we're in this really weird time where it's unprecedented, because we've never been in a macro, quantitative tightening environment, not only in crypto, but a lot of stocks too. We've never, in the past few decades, I mean, it goes back farther than 2008. We've had low interest rates for decades now, and now we have to repent for our sins. We have to pay the price. So it's not going to be clean, and it's not going to be just. I'm starting to change my mind in that it's not going to be as simple as, okay, quantitative easing is back. Let's go back to 0% interest rates and kick off a new bull market, right? It might not look exactly as cut and dry, but I do think crypto will rip at some point in 2023 when the Fed shows signs of pivoting, right? But I would still get used to the fact that we are probably going to be in a non-zero interest rate environment for some time, which is normal, right? Because a low interest rate environment is kind of a sign of a weak economy. And because the economy is so weak that we need to print money to fund all these people's bullshit jobs, which we're now finding out. It's really the big shakeout, right? What's happening now is all these people from their cushy tech jobs that didn't do anything all day, they're being fired, which is not bad, right? They're going to end up being redistributed and going somewhere where they can actually have a little bit more meaning in their life, and maybe put their talents to better use. So it's a good way to shake things up. But as unemployment goes up, we're going to see it's going to be chaotic, and it's not going to be as simple as, okay, let's go back to 0% interest rates. But either way, I'm expecting, I mean, obviously I'm speculating, right? But if you're still here, I think the Q1 and Q2 of 2023 is going to be really, really eventful. The documentary, the PulseChain launch, the V3 testnet, even all these things are going to put massive FOMO on Hex, and combine that with the Fed potentially pivoting. And all that means is raising rates less fast. It doesn't mean going back to zero, right? It just means, 50 basis points instead of 75. But all that's going to happen in 2023. It's going to be glorious. And we might not make new all-time highs, but we're probably going to have a nice juicy pump. And I'm ready for that big girthy green candle. So bring it on.
I'd like to make a comment about the unemployment numbers. Right now, we have some of the highest number of people employed as far as a percentage of the population that's in a working age group. And, these metrics are reported by government and things like that. So there's a little bit of wiggle room about how accurate they are, depending on the narrative and so forth. But outside of that, if you just take it at surface value and say, okay, this is the real number, ask yourself, if you are employed, would you hire yourself? Would your performance generate 4 times your cost? Because that's basically what an employer has to do. They have to say your basic labor cost plus your health insurance cost plus the liability insurance that you slip and fall or cause damage to somebody else in your place of business. What is your overhead for that employee? And I saw recently a post, it's a real thing, of a McDonald's that has no employees whatsoever. Nobody's at the drive-through. Nobody's at the counter. The food is produced in machine through technology. And probably, if you look at the quality of the product itself versus humans interacting, it's probably even better. I'm not saying that McDonald's is good food. Don't take that out of context.
I love McDonald's.
But I'm saying that technology in general can replace you. So you have to be performing. You have to be better in some ways. And ask yourself, as we go into a marketplace of 23, where there probably will be higher unemployment, are you so valuable to your company that you're generating 4 times your cost, at least 4 times your cost? If you're not, you can't honestly say that you would hire yourself, right? You wouldn't do it, right? As a business person. So put yourself in that mode. And then we have so many tools available to us on social media to actually generate high net worth. You never had a higher opportunity than today to make $1 million from your cell phone and no other tool. Nothing else other than a cell phone. No other thing other than generating a business through your cell phone. You never had that opportunity as greatly as you have today. And yet what we tend to do is wake up, look at Instagram, scroll for about an hour at whatever funny meme or thing makes you laugh or chuckle, and then toss the phone to the side. Most of the time, people are addicted to it, and they really are not net more productive. They're more consumer of content, but they're not actually generating things that deliver value to other people. So ask yourself in 22 and 23, if you're employed or if you're running a business and you're looking at your overhead, that's basically what government wants to do and Fed wants to do with their funds rate policy. Is they want to increase unemployment, and they're doing that through increasing the cost of money, the cost of currency at least. There are opportunities far outside of the reach of the United States and outside of the social culture of the United States. Other countries need newspapers. You think the newspapers are dead? Yeah, they are for the most part in most of the United States and Western Europe, but they're live and thriving in other countries. You think that the opportunity that has passed you by that you heard about 5 or 6 years ago in your city that someone else acted on as an entrepreneur? Well, there's opportunity in other countries that don't have that product or service yet. Like, human needs and wants are the same basically around the planet pretty much. So, ask yourself, would you employ yourself? And if you say no, or if you say, well, not for that rate, I'm worth more than my employer's paying me. Well, deliver a better product, but deliver it to your own business. Like, launch your own thing, get out there. That's really the entrepreneurial drive that I respect about Richard. Is yes, he developed this product of Hex, and yes, the community kind of gravitated towards the narrative that he put out there of the code delivering yield without the risk of a centralized platform or something along those lines. And that's great that it's brought us together. But one of the first things that I really valued about our community was how many of us were entrepreneurial and how many of us were basically not just intellectual twiddling our thumbs talking about the narrative of things it could be, but actually doers. I really like that we are a lot of doers.
I love that you said that, Gary. I agree with all that, because when you think about, all the flashy headlines of all of the unemployment rate numbers are going so high, and it's meant to instill fear in people, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Because think about that automated McDonald's, right? Do you really want that job at McDonald's? Or would you be, people are always scared about automation is going to take our jobs, but we never foresee the new jobs, the entire new sectors that get created, such as with the internet boom, right? And new entire lines of work are going to be created in the crypto industry. They currently are. And it's going to free you from, automation is going to free us from having to do the manual, tedious, mundane tasks. Like, no offense if you work at McDonald's, but that's just an example of something that people probably don't want to be there, but they're doing it because it pays the bills. But I've been lucky enough to be able to break out of that, and now that's all I really think about is I try to just ask myself, how can I provide value? And I'm just a one-man show, right? I don't have a whole company behind me or anything, which is great. I have a lot more freedom to act and do and experiment and do whatever I want. But I'm always asking myself, where can I provide the most value myself in order to not only sustain my life, but that's how you get money. You need to provide a good or a service. So yeah, we do have a lot of entrepreneurs, and Hex is actually, it's been an entrepreneurial endeavor for me as well. It's all what you want it to be, right? You can be as passive or active as you want in Hex in particular, but even in crypto in general, and even in just tech in general, there's so much opportunity on the table if you can think of a creative way to use your skills. Because like you said, all you need is a cell phone. You can get out there with your voice. I like info products. My product is an info product. I sell courses. And it's just the knowledge in your head, right? I think everybody has, domain specific knowledge in their head. I would bet a lot of people watching right now have $100,000 product in their head that they just need to get out there and talk about, and just, put it on video and record it. So, and I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but that's kind of the process that I'm going into in 2023. Just trying to fine tune my revenue streams, make sure I'm afloat, and make sure that I'm not wasting my effort where it's not wanted. Because I've had bullshit jobs before. I've had those tech jobs that I did ask myself, like, am I actually needed here? And it drove me crazy because, you might think it's nice for a while to just be able to coast by in some of these jobs. And I'm picking on tech in particular because there's so much wasted space in those kind of industries. And I think we're finally realizing that, right? Like Twitter laying off, 90% of the workforce. Twitter runs fine, right? I was one of those guys, depending on what project I was placed on, where sometimes sometimes I mattered a lot, but other times I really didn't matter at all to the to the success of the project. And I knew that. And it sounds nice at first, and it is nice for maybe a month or so. You're like, okay, I can chill out. But then it drives you up a wall. Like, it literally drives you insane. And so I couldn't wait to quit, because I had been in a couple of those projects where I was just beating my head against a wall because I knew I wasn't actually providing anything. I was just a line item that the client was paying for, that it's almost like we were scamming the client, right? But anyway, I won't get into all that. We could talk about other stuff. I love your hat, Cabana. I love your hat.
Thank you. And good news, I fixed the audio issue so I can respond in real
Finally.
time.
My God.
Is this output a different place?
Yeah, I had to go in, and somehow one of the settings switched to something else, and I just had to toggle it back. No idea why I did that, but anyway, yeah, back.
One of the things that I did recently, I've talked to people that have high net worth and things like that, and some of them have bought into the product. A lot of them tend to be real estate people, but also again, I'm not like, I respect dollar cost crypto. I think that out of the number of people, maybe Hex Toys has onboarded more people, but dollar cost has onboarded something like 9,000 people over the past 3 years, and staked. Like, they've gotten Hadron, they've gotten all these other things, and they love him and Charlie's advice and things like that about other products. So I respect people that speak only to crypto, to people that are enthusiastic and heard about crypto in the first place in order to source them out. I think that's awesome. But what's some of my recent onboard, just as an example of, we're talking, I was saying something about how McDonald's, being automated, or, new technologies coming along and displacing employees or laborers, that may have a specialized even niche. There was a fear narrative about it, and it still is happening, even with things like WebMD replacing, a lot of needs to go get checked up by your primary care physician, because some of that can be pretty accurate and helpful without having to have an appointment. So even things that are considered like white collar or some medical need isn't necessarily safe from the climb of AI and technology. Recently, you've seen a lot of tweets posting about OpenGPT and these, being able to write out, answers to queries, or, whole scripts and things like that, or some of the things that maybe a few months ago were these AI generated images. So it's not really an interest of mine. I'm not really artistic. I've been going to some of these Art Basel events and things like that, basically just to network with, hotty-toddy people or something. But because of that, I got a little bit inspired, and I talked to one of my friends in South America that her business, it's a small mom and pop scale business. It's not really big, but it's enough that it supports her and her family. And basically she has a creative side where she paints the pets of her clients. Sometimes the pet is still alive, but often the pet has passed away. And then she makes like a memorial kind of painting on like a disc of wood, like basically it's a prepared kind of wooden panel from a slice of a log or something like that. And I thought that was really interesting, little niche business. She's been running it for several years. And again, she makes enough that she supports herself comfortably through her art, basically, and her client list. And, what's interesting is when I had said something to her, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, when this AI generating image stuff started to become really talked about a lot on Twitter. One of the big ones is Dali. I think it's called Dali. And so I'd said something about it, and I said, how many for each of your clients that do find your website and do hire you for like $100 painting for her to make, basically, and they give her a couple of photos of their pet, or something along the lines with them and their pet together. And then I said, how do you reproduce this? And can you only like look at that image and reproduce it in paint, like on this block of wood as a memorial, like you're reproducing it, almost like tracing on paper kind of thing or whatever, right? She said, yeah, that's basically her artistic eye. She delivers very lifelike. They look very real and authentic and things like that. But I had shown her the Dali website, and then I told her to put in the pet images that her clients had given her, and they would put it in different poses and different backgrounds and different themes of these pets, right? And it looks, she showed them to her previous sales, and then they ended up buying like 3 or 4 other images that were never in their repertoire, their photography. It wasn't something that she probably would have created on her own that they would have really liked, because she couldn't give them for no cost images to choose from. She would have had to paint them in her idea and invested her labor and time to provide the thing for them to see. But through that website, then she was able to generate AI images, like 8 or 9 of them. And then they chose like 3 for her to paint. So she like tripled her volume of business from her pre-existing clients. And then she was able to offer it as, add-ons or, additional sales, upsales on her new clients. And then because of that, she bought Hex. I think it was like 5 cents at the time. She's still happy with her purchase at the 5 cent mark, because she saw it as, this was a little bit of a windfall by me taking the time to show her something that was new and relevant for her existing business. She 3x'd her volume and she 3x'd her ROI. Right. So you can look at options like that. Like if you're not a business person that you're going to be a painter yourself, look at what's out there. Look at the OpenGPT. I've seen where people are doing like consulting, even with this idea of Dali images. I think that you can put things on Etsy, like maybe some images, AI generate them, put them on Etsy, and then print on demand if you make a sale. You basically have almost no cost in order to generate the content. And then most of the people that are not necessarily tech savvy, they just want to click a button and buy the thing that they have on an impulse, for a birthday gift or last minute, holiday season, especially, or anniversaries or birthdays. People aren't going to necessarily do a lot of searching out, but they see that thing that impacts them enough to hit the button and print on demand. That's the kind of stuff that some of my friends have made significant money in.
Oh my
Some
God.
people even have met my friend Kinman that's made millions of dollars from print on demand products. So look at those options when new technologies like OpenGPT comes out.
I've been thinking a lot about that, actually, Gary. ChatGPT changes the game, and it's a big deal for everybody. And people are overhyping it, and then people are also trying to shit on it because it threatens their business directly, and it does. If you're a graphic designer, or if you do like tedious, mundane, virtual assistant type tasks on Fiverr, your job is kind of replaced to those that are tech savvy enough to be aware of this new innovation that exists right now. I've been using it. I've used it to generate YouTube thumbnails. It saves me a whole bunch of time because I rather than trying to search for an image that describes what you want to say, you just ask the AI to make you a really cool image, and it does it better than anything that exists on Google today currently. I've also been looking into trying to use it for summarizing my videos, like transcribing my live streams, and then potentially, I don't know if this is possible yet, but potentially organizing them into chapters and using that for automated timestamps, basically. So you don't have to pay somebody to make timestamps for you. And it can just make things easier for you. Even just generating content ideas like clickbait titles, not clickbait as in, actual fake news, but, hey, generate me a catchy title that has to do with hacks and dollar cost averaging. And it'll fill in for you with the emotional words and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm really interested in talking about how AI can help not just productivity, but also can potentially be a business idea. I mean, to some degree, people are very angry because they feel threatened. And you can't just go into like an artist group and start trying to sell, AI art, because they'll just, they'll get out their pitchforks and they'll run you out of town. But that's a decent idea, Gary, like to go on Fiverr and just have like print on demand posters. I don't know who would bite on that, but hey, it's worth a try. You know what I mean? And maybe call me crazy, maybe you could even make hex imagery and sell shovels to gold miners, right? Yeah. Sell hex merchandise. Well, we've already got people doing that, and they do a great job. But yeah, I am open to ideas. If you guys have any ideas about how AI can help generate income.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're going to go the YouTube route, there's content that I see all the time on Twitter that I just haven't taken the time myself to sit down, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. I just haven't. Maybe the New Year resolution is to be actually more productive entrepreneurial wise. But like it annoys me sometimes, but I do get curious enough to click on some of the sponsored links on Twitter that is like, where are they now? Like, where are these people that used to be on this TV show in the 80s? Or, the Addams Family, since there's been basically 3 iterations of the Addams Family, and that's very popular right now with Wednesday and so forth. Like you can click on those, and they typically, what they are doing when you click on it is it's loading about 50 images with about a paragraph of what's described in the image. And I think that their revenue model is all of the 100 little advertisements that you have to scroll through or past that is getting revenue to that person that posted, right? Well, you can do something along those lines as well, but you could probably be 10 times or 100 times more efficient by using GPT or using this AI platforms to not just write the script or the content. You can ask the query and then it'll generate it for you. And the image, even if you do a search, sit down with Google search, or if you, a lot of those are open image, they're not copyrighted. So a lot of them you could actually repost something you find on Twitter sponsored and make a YouTube video. And the YouTube video is actually going to get 9 or 10 minutes worth of play, probably have 2 advertisements, and it's just basically a slideshow of where are the Addams Family now. This is what Uncle Fester was in the 60s, and this is this new guy. You can sit down and probably within about 15 to 20 minutes repurpose content that you found and string it together with OpenGPT. And even in the bottom, if you choose to be marketing something else like Hex or PulseChain or 38% APY or whatever you want to have as a narrative, just have that as the bar. Plenty of people are going to see that. When I look on YouTube and I'm looking for something along those lines, I see hundreds of thousands of views of 9 or 10 minutes worth of content that is just basically trivia. Like, even colorized photos from the 1800s. It's novelty. You could ask OpenGPT to give you a colorized version of the same image you input of Billy the Kid, or any of these cowboy kind of iconic names, things like that. Just generate some of that and do an A/B test. See if it's worthwhile for your time. You can generate a 10-minute long Hex video and basically speak to mostly the same audience that's heard the message before, just in a different way. Like you're speaking to basically the choir. But if you sit down and say, I'm going to do something that ROIs my time and gives me cash flow because I'm actually monetizing the attention, and I'm also marketing or impacting the potential price of Hex, because of its popularity. I did that with real estate in 19, and I should have done it more in 20 and 22 because I took percentages of my rental income and put it into Hex for my own ROI. And I talked about it to some degree. But I think that in 23 coming up, that's the new resolution for me specifically. I think other people should take up that same cause.
Yeah. It's so cool to see what people are coming up with ChatGPT, and Midjourney is my favorite, go-to AI art generator. Dolly is another one. Stable Diffusion's another one. They've all got their time and place. Right now, that they're kind of just productivity tools for me. But you can make a whole YouTube video. I mean, you can make a whole ass transcript, and then you can feed that to a different AI and have that AI read it. So you could be just a basement dwelling World of Warcraft playing troll, and you could make professional sounding YouTube videos. And you could even have AI generate the art and just go from scene to scene, and none of it involved you opening your mouth or showing your face on a camera. Now, I recommend you actually do show your face on a camera. I mean, you can build relationships a lot easier with people when you are there in real life. But you can make clickbait content all day long if you just want to go like, the ads I see on Twitter are exactly like that. Like, you won't believe what this soccer mom did in 5 easy steps, to fix her acne. I don't know, some crap like that. But,
well, what I like is when you made your video not long ago, and it was kind of, it's a theme I've seen played out a lot, Mr. Beast and things like that, about paying for someone's groceries. And one of the, some of the things that you said when people were saying, why are you doing this? Is things have treated me well. I'm in this thing called Hex. I like it a lot as a product. And now I've got free time or a little bit of excess that I can feel like I can give back. You can make the same kind of YouTube or TikTok or Instagram content. I think ABIT is starting to release some kind of like education thing about how to make reels and how to make these things on Instagram that he does so well. His cartoon memes and stuff like that. So it is taking something that he likes to do. It is his investment into understanding the technology that makes it possible to do what he does, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think it's reasonable and fair to monetize that, right? Because other people that don't like Hex, don't know anything about crypto, they still benefit from creating their Instagram reels and understanding how he creates his content. So I like products that are basically crossing over into other marketplaces. Even when we do like meetups and things like that in the future, I would like to see that we have corporate sponsorship more than we have individual attendees sponsorship. If they want to advertise an Audi car, then Audi should contribute some to that marketing ploy, right? So it's stuff like that. I want to focus that more on that in 23 and 24, no matter what we do.
There you go. Another thing for chat GPT is like content creation, like website content creation. It was like, you go out and hire somebody to write an article. I'm just talking like SEO wise for 500 words or something like that. Now you can literally go in and say, hey, write me an article about this crypto, or, why, this theme could work in 2023 or something like that. And it's just, the tech is just absolutely wild. But, and obviously you would want to not spam search engines and create like a total spammy site. You have to do it in a strategic kind of way, but that would just be another use for it, is to, just flat out content creation in addition to the imagery and all that stuff.
Yeah, you do have to proofread these things because
Yes.
sometimes they don't get the content quite right, but blogging is not dead at all. That's another form of content creation. I mean, there's an open niche that has to be filled that's hex specific. That could be an entire news website dedicated to, and I know Watcher.guru, they're pretty big and they're very hex friendly, but there's a whole entire pocket that could be filled by just creating an epic blog website that just writes articles. It doesn't have to be only hex or PulseChain, but it could be. I mean, once the PulseChain ecosystem is out, you could have a whole website dedicated to PulseChain news, right? And I've seen a lot of these websites come and go because people just don't keep up to date with them, because there's a lot of energy that it takes to actually break through into virality with these things. But you need to keep up with it. It's kind of like starting a YouTube channel. It takes 6 months to get your first 1,000 subscribers, and then it picks up like a snowball rolling down a hill. So yeah, content creation in all forms is good.
It's important for search engines too, because they like to see that fresh content. Like that's a signal to them, be like, okay, well, we can probably rank this site higher because it's being maintained, better, faster, content's fresher, and that helps with the SEO side too. So
something also, if you're going to post a photo, I need to start doing it more myself. Also, I just realized that you should be doing it too. Is you can do your alt text on an image, and most of us just don't even click on it when you post an image and post anything in there that would be beneficial to SEO. But if you think that's because you're just not that creative on the fly, you just want to post a photo, do an OpenGBT, make a paragraph for you or whatever, and post it in there. Salt it with some of the hashtags maybe, but like something in there is better, because it just like a lot of the algorithm, you wonder why something doesn't perform so well. It's because we aren't using the tools available to allow the algorithm to help you.
Well, we're kind of like looking forward with content ideas and very constructive stuff for 2023. We've been here an hour 15 minutes. I did have
happy hour
happy hours. Did have a couple items just forward looking for fun before we make our exit here for this week. Kind of inspired, I guess, by Completion Fails question. When does the golden question, when does everyone think the market will turn around? I mean, that is the
the pain stop.
Yes, the golden question. So I guess we can start, and I just have a very small list here we can go through before we, call it an evening. But how low do we think Bitcoin's price can go? Obviously, it's the market leader. There's an argument to be made that I think ETH can probably, perhaps take it over this cycle or next. But, it's just shy of what were we at? 16.8 right now. Are the lows in? Do we take another leg lower? I personally think like the 11K might be a bit much of Richard's call, but props to him if he's right. That would just be another feather in the cap, and haters would cry even more. I think we can do like 13, 14K, and I think that's my bottom target. But any thoughts on the old Bitcoin and where it could bottom in 2023? Hopefully it bottoms in 2023.
I'll give my opinion unless you
go for it.
Look at mid 2017 and ask yourself how many people actually were participating in crypto and Bitcoin specifically in mid 2017, when it was around $10,000 or $11,000. And the narrative back then was, it's retail, just buy it now. Later, banks and big companies and corporations will buy, right? Like they will buy your bags. That was 2017. It had a blow off top that reached around 19 or 20,000, depending on the chart that you looked at. And that was the hype cycle, basically capitulating at the top and saying we've exhausted retail money, and retail purchase to push the price higher is fading. And then you saw capitulation as it went down in 18 and 19. So do you think that there are more retail buyers right now, or you think that they're the same retail buyers with either more capital or whatever it is? Like when we see a $17,000 price maintained, a $16,000 price maintained in the face of these centralized exchanges and financial malfeasance and things like that of people, managing other people's money. The new money that pushed into those markets, the new money that basically went into Celsius and and Voyager and Three Arrows Capital's hands and Binance or whomever, right? All these different centralized platforms. Is that retail money? Is that fiduciary responsible funds like hedge funds and things like that pushing the price? And once that has cleared out, isn't that where we're sitting at now, 17,000 or so? Like I think that right now is retail. Like even holding the price now is, I heard it went up in 17. I saw it go up to 20 and 17. Maybe I can double my money and I'll buy or hold or not sell yet at 17. I think that's still the retail people. I don't think that that's the Michael Saylors. Even when you look at Michael Saylor's book, I think that it got published not long ago. He sold he just did a stream with George Gammon 4 or 5 days ago. And, he's talking positively as he always is about the product of Bitcoin and mortgage your house. And, this is, it's going to, everything else that's crypto is going to fade away. Even Mark Moss likes to say a lot right now, even though he wasn't saying it in 17, he used to be more of an Ethereum bull. He says, crypto or other things than Bitcoin aren't going to have another bull run. I think that's preposterous. I think that's silly. I think that's not true at all. I think they're definitely going to have bull runs, especially in DeFi. It's just like the appetite for risk is high, high enough to where it's going to have another bull. But as far as Bitcoin itself, like it hasn't added something to its pitch. Is it adding new, is it reaching new pockets of money that weren't reached before? It already hit the gold bugs and silver bugs 10 years ago. It already hit the anti-government people that, say, peer-to-peer back when you could peer-to-peer, back when mixing and tumblers and things like that weren't outlawed, basically. So it's already hit those people. It already hit the Silicon Valley money, in 15, something like that. And then in 17, anybody that was in Silicon Valley that wanted to participate in crypto, they found this product that offered smart contracts, through Ethereum. So like, I think that Bitcoin can go further down because it needs the volatility to go under in order for the juiciness and appetite for non-retail to buy in again. They can use their leverage of effectively free money when the Fed pivots and printer press starts again, and they can put it into the market to influence the price of Bitcoin the easiest. So I think the Bitcoin for the next year and a half year or so can still go further down.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead with Richard's 11K and pray. I didn't believe it at first, but then FTX collapsed and I instantly became a believer. I was Thomas the Doubter, but we got lower to go on Bitcoin, but everybody thinks when the Fed pivots, it's just back to pure bull run all over again. I don't think it's that simple. I'd be cautious of anybody. We might get a situation kind of like 2019 with an epic bull trap. Then, when Bitcoin rushed up to 14K and back down to 4, we could see that again. But yeah, we do have farther down probably to go in Bitcoin as well, just because there's nothing going for it right now. There's absolutely nobody. We can talk about pockets of people on top of all the gold bugs and the computer nerds and all that. Now you've got the richest people in the world and all the institutions already bought it. So, I mean, it's almost like, the institutions are going to layer in again, but I think they want lower prices, before JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs go in again, right? They were still skeptical about even Bitcoin during this last cycle, but you can see that a lot of big players adopted it and a lot of new centralized middlemen banks essentially were created. Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com, FTX. These are just new banks. These are just the new players in the game that, innovated a little bit before, JP Morgan did, but it's nothing new under the sun, right? That's still just the new bank accounts because you're still just transferring your money and they track everything and they can shut you off at any time. So during this dip, I think we see the traditional financial players on Wall Street try to scoop up at the lows, but they're not in any rush because, yeah, there are still Mt. Gox coins that need to hit the market. Although they're probably going to do it in a staggered way, but there are still people that are over leveraged that need to get liquidated. And there's not a whole lot of rich dudes that really want to buy right now. Elon Musk already bought, Richard says that all the time, but we've had the Silicon Valley guys, pretend like they were into Bitcoin, and that's all done. So, I think everybody's waiting for lower prices on Bitcoin that wants to get back into it. Luckily, I think Bitcoin's starting to matter less because also, like Gary said, like we've got smart contracts now. We've got Ethereum and we're going to have PulseChain. The PulseChain launch can be an anomaly that breaks away. I mean, Hex itself is an anomaly in that statistically its correlation to the crypto market or to Bitcoin specifically, if you're going by the whales only charts, is actually pretty low. Like it doesn't correlate as highly positively or negatively to Bitcoin. It's closer to 0 than it is to 1 in either direction. So Hex can do its own thing, and the Hex price it's probably going to pump on V3 news. It's probably going to pump on documentary news, and it's almost definitely going to pump on PulseChain news. And those are three big data points in the future. Like I said earlier, on top of the Fed slowing their rate hikes. And I don't think the Fed is going to slow down their rate hikes until their mid-February meeting, because that mid-February meeting is going to be the one where the CPI numbers come in low because of the way they manipulated the CPI calculation. Because they're going to be calculating it for January of 2023 using the new averaging technique. And we might see a temporary relief rally in stocks and stuff in February. But yeah, just get ready for a boring New Year's and Christmas price-wise, but never been a better time to dollar cost average. Seriously, I mean, I know a lot of people are waiting for 1 penny, but if you're just dollar cost averaging the whole way down and you have a really long-term mindset, you're not concerned with the buys you made at 3 cents versus 1 cent versus even 10 cents, because we're looking at $5, someday in 3 or 4 years from now.
So just out of curiosity, Coffee, for an inflation number, I said I think we can, at the beginning of the show before you got on, I think we can get below 5% by February. I think inflation's coming down that much. Do you think we get there at least?
That is very speculative. I don't even know how I would come up with a guess. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't know what I would even use.
You peaked at what, like 9, and it's coming down. I think it's
7.1 right now.
But that's a little bit hard to say because what are you calling inflation? Is it the house value and equity that goes up each year? Is it the cost of the Snicker bar and the potatoes at the grocery store? Is it the cost of gas? Like, inflation, we like to say, oh, it's this flat number, but a lot of different products are affected differently. A lot of different services are affected differently. Depends on, again, maybe even when you talk about like the Big Mac standard, when they try to say, here's what the price is in inflation. Do you think technology is going to impact that if there's no workers, right? Do you think that, is Twitter doing better with 1/4 of the workforce that they had before? Like, when these numbers come out and you say, what is inflation cost of my good or service? It's not a flat number across all things. Different products and services are affected differently.
Well, speaking of other projects / platforms, I mean, this is another one I had on my list here. So PulseChain was mentioned. I think that's the easy go-to answer, but is there any project, platform, crypto that's in the RH ecosystem you're most excited for 2023? I guess I'll start with you, Coffee, because you've covered a lot of these on your channel. Is there any one that catches your eye that you're, dare I say, more excited about than others at the risk of offending some people?
Oh, dude. Hey, if you open your mouth on the internet at all, you're going to offend like half.
Exactly.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm obviously excited about some more than others. I talk about pretty openly, like what I've sacrificed for, and what I don't, and it's a scarcity mindset to be angry at coins. Everybody's free to invest in what they want. I'm just literally trying to tell people what I think is going to pump the hardest, or what can, even though I do think PulseX, PulseChain, and Hex are going to pump the hardest, I also think there's other coins that make attractive passive income streams, like liquid loans, fiat.io, even famous.io. All these things are copies of very, very battle tested and proven concepts on Ethereum, and we need them, and we can't rely on the original developers on Ethereum to bring them over. So, plus we have more control if our own developers are building these platforms, because they can make things optimized for the PulseChain ecosystem. They can pick which coins to offer, on leverage trading. Like they can choose to offer Hedron and Hex and stuff. And it's all self-referential, which I really, really enjoy. So yeah, there's those three. There's liquid loans, famous, and fiat. I'm always a big fan of Hedron, just because it's a nice bonus, it's another incentive for staking Hex, and it extends the functionality of Hex. Obviously PulseX and PulseChain. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I put money into. I'm fully out of the Pulse Doge ecosystem, but hey, if you want to play there, who am I to stop you? Meme coins I don't think are going to do as good, just because there's so many of them, right? It's like, oh yeah, you could say meme coins pump hard as fuck, but like you're really just talking about like Dogecoin and Shiba, right? And you're ignoring like the hundreds that fail, right? So it's called silent evidence, right? Just because there's one good example of something doesn't mean you just go ahead and make a meme coin and it's the best thing ever. And I don't care. Like, look, if you want to invest in these things and put your money, your hard-earned money into all these projects, there's hundreds of them coming to PulseChain. So I am not telling anybody where to put their money. I don't give financial advice. All I can tell you is where I put my own money. And I think that's it. I mean, maybe I might have done a little bit in Mad Energy just because I liked their idea a lot and the people, and I like everything about that company, but that's a traditional mainstream company. What else? Yeah, that's kind of it. Liquid loans. I mean, look, Power City seems like they're going to do a good job. Yeah, the meme coins are, if you're going to buy a meme coin, at least, maybe do Pulse Doge. But then again, if, one of the leaders in that community is kind of an asshole. So I'm not really a big fan of that one either. That matters too. Are the people representing the coin like nice people that I want to be associated with? Because I see a lot of just, this happens a lot too, where, people will pretend to be friendly towards the community and then just start trash talking everybody. And it's like, well, that's no way to bring people over, right? That's going to, if you get more flies with honey than vinegar, they say. So if you're just going to be rude and mean to other hexicans, like, don't expect people to go rushing in to buy your coin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I asked you that one because I know you've covered plenty on your channel. Now I'll turn to our purist, Mr. Funding Jim, because I know his favorite is always Hex, and it's fine and completely fair if that is your answer for your thing that you're most excited about in 2023 in the RH ecosystem. Go for it.
I mean, I've had a learning curve since 17. I think a lot of us, if we started in 17, that's, we've only got 5 years of experience at the most. And, we've never dealt with a bear market like this because we've always been in a hyperprint currency market in the past. And obviously we had the benefits of the shutdown of COVID and, basically coming together as a community, talking about a single product for effectively 2 years. The narrative of, needing an L1 because we can control the cost in general, or Richard's product could control the cost of staking and unstaking and the ROI to be more efficient, things like that for Hex. So like I support PulseChain, even though it's a promise coin. I'm truthful in that it's a promise coin. It's by a founder that has had previous success, yes, with Hex, but don't doubt that it's a promise coin. Hopefully something comes of it. If it doesn't, it's my sacrifice for movement or sacrifice for speech or whatever the narrative is, right? But the reason that I wanted to support it in general is because it impacts the onboarding of Hex. We saw Hex slowing down when it was $1,000 to unstake, and that's not fair. That's not really the design. We want Ethereum to be a dumb pipe, effectively, for all these other things to rise across the whole ecosystem of Ethereum. And it doesn't seem like that's their goal point, their goal set. So I support PulseChain and PulseX. Yes. I realize that both of them are promises until they exist. Now, similarly, there's other things that are effectively being proposed as forks of existing successful products or services on Ethereum, like you commented with Aave, or with ability to short, or the ability to play, whether you like it or not, the trading game. It's going to exist. Trading is always going to exist in every marketplace. Some people don't want to be locked in with this idea of hopefully I'll get more in the future than if I had traded in and out. So, I support the fiat, the famous stuff that's going on in general. I haven't sacrificed for anything else. There's nothing else I've sacrificed for other than PulseChain and PulseX, because I do want those products to exist. I don't know the founders personally. I've seen their content in general. They seem to be enthusiastic, Hexagon, along the same narrative in the tweets, or if I've ever seen them on YouTube content or something like that, I tend to like them because they seem to be community driven, right? And they seem to have supported the narrative of sound money principles, is why I got involved with Hex to begin with, right? So I'm not a hater at all. I haven't sacrificed. When these things come out, in the past, I've been a little bit more pointed with LL, like me and Jesse and things like that used to go at it, or me and David Fetter and others that, Jexa and things like that. But when the product actually exists, and when I can actually see that it's possible to pull equity out of a coin without selling the coin and use that for other purposes I choose, which may be real estate purchase, something that I can refi in the future, pull equity out during market cycles and re-participate in crypto in a strong way during bears, then I'm very supportive of LL. I like the idea of LL. I think that it's an interesting, I think there's Teddy Cash or something like that, and Liquidity and all these other platform L1s that have similar code. And if they have the narrative, even though it is leverage, don't deny that it's not, that it doesn't have risk. There is risk. But outside of that, I'm willing to speculate with LL if the code holds up with the audits and all the other things that were necessary for me to participate with Hex.
Yeah, the thing about the promise coins is, like, Richard Hart had a lot of reputation built already with us, which is why we gave him a pass. And yeah, I really still am allergic to promise coins most of the time, but a couple of guys were able to convince me about their ideas enough for me to put in a little money ahead of time. And although they do have a demo, it's not a full proof of concept, right? So these are obviously huge risks, you know what I mean? So I want everybody to know that too. It's like, I'm investing in these people that, yes, I've met them. Yes, I love their ideas and I'm very optimistic, but these are like, it's like playing venture capitalist, and some of them might fail. I hope all of them work out, but some of them might fail, and it might even be big ones that we were all really confident in. So I'm kind of just trying to give people like what I'm more confident, on the spectrum in versus less, because it's all just a gamble. Like, it's a gamble. We're gambling on people, and we have to trust people at the end of the day.
Yeah, and to your point, when you were saying about, I forget what the phrase was about meme coins, you said about how many of them are not successful, but you get
the silent evidence. Yeah.
So we tend to do that. It seems like a fair reasoning to say this is how things performed on Ethereum, the most popular L1, and then highlight its performance on Ethereum, and then maybe not even comment that the same code forked onto a different L1 didn't perform, and blame it on that L1. Say, oh, that L1's community wasn't as robust. It didn't have as many developers, didn't have as many people speculating. Therefore, the endpoint of the product on that L1 didn't do as well as the endpoint of this L1, of Ethereum's L1, right? So we do cherry pick all the time what we tend to create our own narratives about. I think that if our community of people that like, whether it's Hex or a new L1 opportunity, or that they can be finally be a whale in a new ecosystem, whether that's an endpoint product or a DEX or the L1 itself. Like, everyone creates their own narrative about what their opportunity is and when they're going to let go of their holdings, for ROI. So I think that there's 150 so-called products that are going to launch on PulseChain. I like that. I'm not antithetical to other things launching on PulseChain. I get annoyed with some people that say, we need everything to come over to PulseChain or PulseChain will die. I don't think that that's why it was going to get launched in the first place. I think we've added that value to the narrative of an
I think
L1.
PulseChain, this is a crazy opinion. I think PulseChain would be fine if only Hex was on it.
That's
And
what I was
if you want proof, like UST and Luna, yes, I know Luna was a miserable failure, but it was pretty much the only reason people used the Terra blockchain. And there are blockchains like Library blockchain that have one use case. And so the whole ghost chain thing, it's like, I don't really buy that, but it is still nice to have a full ecosystem.
Yeah. and again, I'm not saying, I'm encouraging innovation, creativity, integrity. I'm hopeful that people have integrity when they say, give me money and I will deliver something in the future. We saw that in 17. There were unknown faces to me back then. Later, they weren't around in 18 because they ran away with the money, right? Like, I don't want that to happen. And I definitely am more supportive when they are public facing, when they're engaging Q&A. I like even someone that created a product or is creating a product that is not RH only. And that's KG with their wallet, with their internet money wallet. I like his product. I'm not really enthusiastic myself about other L1s or other crypto products or engaging other trades, but I like that thing will exist. I think that that's kind of cool, right? And I understand that it's going to be bi-directional. Some people will come from the RH ecosystem and they'll go over to Litecoin maybe to trade or some opportunity, or they'll go to some other product that internet money offers as a opportunity. So I like that, even though it's definitely not an RH maximalist position, right? And again, I would like our community to hopefully be more integrity representing and more truth telling in the years to come than Richard. Richard is great. I like Richard. He's a good person. I think his intentions are pure. I think his methods sometimes for me even are questionable, and I wouldn't do it that way, but that's not me. I'm not him, right? So all I can do is represent my position in the community, and Coffee represent his, and Cabana represent his at the best of our abilities. And if people resonate with that, then the community grows. That's really what I want. Is I want the audience to be louder than the gladiator.
There we go. So, couple more. I know we just mentioned PulseChain here, so these are just totally fun before we wrap. Not to be taken as gospel, even though someone out there I'm sure will. So V3 and mainnet. I know in the green room, Gary, last week we were just having fun throwing dates around, but V3. I mean, I'll go first just because I think we get V3 at the latest February, and I'm actually gonna upgrade my May prediction for mainnet to April. PulseChain, V3, and mainnet. Gary, what say you? No? He's speechless? Funding Jim?
I hate to think about timing, and I'm not thinking about the market conditions, but I am thinking about single side staking or whatever it is, single side liquidity providing of the V3 version of Uniswap, when that is open license, when you can actually fork it.
I think it's April
I don't know
1.
that Richard would want to migrate. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's April 1, but yeah, good.
Yeah. So my thought is, if you look at the migration of Uniswap V1 LP to V2, was that helpful to migrate, or should it have always been a V1 that had all the features of V2? And then migration again of V2 still exists, but like when you're charting and you're trying to figure out actual volume or actual liquidity and things like that, it is split across V2 and V3. Like, is it better that a DEX launches with all of those feature sets at the same time, or a couple of months later, there's a migration because that feature gets added. So my thought is that PulseX would launch at the same time as PulseChain. I think they're kind of interconnected as far as the AMM and things like that. So they would launch at the same time. And I tend to not think it's going to launch before the Uniswap code, if it is so specific and protected through license that it can't be forked before April or whatever the date is, that would be when it would go live. I don't think that there's necessarily benefit, although I would love it to launch sooner and be flawless and have 100% uptime and all those good narratives, to kick off a micro bull of our community, even if the rest of the marketplace is not bull. I would like that to happen, but I still think that there's going to be V3 January and extended V3 until live could be May. I think that live May, when Uniswap's feature could be added in of a V3.
So I should have stuck with my
That's my
green room
guess.
call last week.
No other input other than guessing.
Your guess, Crypto Coffee.
There's a couple things to watch for on the technical side.
We will find out. You want to bet all?
Yeah. Well, you've got EIP 4895, which is basically withdrawals on Ethereum. Right now, people can stake their Ether, but they can't withdraw it. So there's a chance, this was proposed by Goldskeep, there's a chance that the developers could be waiting both for testnet and for mainnet until the Ethereum core team allows for actually withdrawing. That would make sense, right? It's kind of a primary thing. You don't just want to be able to lock up your Pulse and then have no way to withdraw it back again. Now that said, the developers over on the PulseChain side could just implement EIP 4495 because that's basically ready to go. And all the developers are doing right now is kind of just arguing about how much else to include in addition to EP 4895. So it sounds like 4895 is pretty much ready. So maybe the PulseChain devs could just go ahead and implement that. Also, maybe it's not even necessary to go live. It really depends on whatever Richard decides as a product manager. Because you could just launch it as is and then continue to inherit all the EIPs as they come out on Ethereum. Now that said, then there's also, like Gary said, there's also the May 5th date for Uniswap's license to be undone. I don't think the Uniswap license will mean that we can instantly upgrade PulseX to Uniswap v3, because for people that don't know, Uniswap v3, it's under license, so you can't copy it until May. You can't copy it for 1 year, and it'll be 1 year in May.
Oh, is it May? Okay, I thought it was April 1st. I saw it on their site, but maybe I was reading the wrong date. Sorry.
It's May something. I think May 5th. But yeah, so those are two dates to keep an eye on. I'm less likely to think about, the V3 thing. I don't think it's going to be as simple as, okay, we can copy it now, let's go copy it. Obviously, there needs to be testing done. So I don't think that's really a factor in Richard's, list of must-haves, right? I don't think it's really, he's waiting for May for the Uniswap reason, but it might just end up launching in May because that's how the timing is going to work out. It looks like the Ethereum developers are saying March is their best guess estimate for Ethereum withdrawals. So that would be, 3 months into the new year. And March, 3 months. I really think there's a chance that the documentary could launch before PulseChain v3, but it depends whether or not they're waiting to launch testnet v3 until after withdrawals or until before. I suppose they could do either one. They might even launch it before the EIP 95 launches, and they might just try to implement withdrawals themselves. Anything could happen, but there's a chance we could see a documentary and then testnet. I don't know about timelines, guys. There's so much that I don't know that I wish I had. I wish I
did-
had access to their Scrum board or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I did notice they've shifted because the official premiere and distribution used to be, I think, Q4 of this year, and then it was Q1. Now it's Q1 to Q2 2023. So like they're slowly pushing it back ever,
Yeah.
so slyly. But I see you highest of stakes. But I think it would be great to actually have PulseChain out like right before the highest of stakes, because then if PulseChain is mentioned possibly at the end of it, be like, oh, okay, well, this is out and you can go have fun with Hex on it, and boom, everything is there, it's out, like capture all that energy. And so maybe that's just my personal preference slash fantasy, but like you said, it's timelines and we're just doing this for fun. But eventually these things do have to launch, and I think it's hopefully first half of next year and not any further beyond that. So, but yeah, and we'll save the funnest one for last here. So I guess we'll just go on either platform, PulseChain or Ethereum. What level do we think Hex can get back to in 2023? Like, what's a high mark? Do we get to 10 cents? Do we get to even 20, or do we stay below 10? I think we can get 15-ish optimistically by at some point in 2023. We'll have a PulseChain launch then. We're gonna get a lot of excitement out of that, and I just don't see how we can't finally move off the mat.
I think it could be even higher. I think 25 cents is on the table. When the PulseChain hype hits the like whatever time it is in 2023, hopefully it is 2023 at some point. It's going to cost, I mean, Hex can pump it easily 10x from here up to 25. I don't think it's going to make new all-time highs in 23, but I think we will, like I said, get that fake out pump, and then, it'll retrace down to back down again, kind of like Bitcoin did in 2019, right? Everyone's going to get excited. Maybe we go, 23 cents sounds pretty good to me. 23 and 23. My motto was survive till 25. That's what I got to say. But I think we can pump, and then we could easily fall right back down and fake everyone out. Not to the all-time lows, but we could fall all the way back down to, let's say, 10 cents or 5 cents even.
There you go. And Funding Jim, your, I guess, forward-looking statement on the price of Hex that is completely, pure fun. Go for it. Yeah, I'm so in delay on him now.
Pure fun. I think there's a time delay on my lag on me, but pure fun. It's hard, even though I'm enthusiastic and I'm a bull about Hex, the product. I think that on the PulseChain network, we'll have the ROI that people are looking for as far as immediate hit. ROI. Look at my PulseChain Hex that was either airdropped or free in the fork, or relatively early buy, in the price chart. And, the multiples narrative is what people will hear. Hex did a 10x, 20x, 30x. And then later in that same sentence will be on the PulseChain platform or something along those lines. I think that that's cross marketing, and I think that that's where ROI will highest perform. 23 cents and 23 on Ethereum sounds reasonable. I like what Coffee said about whether it's a fake out because the Fed's pivot hasn't completely changed the overall crypto market yet, right? Like if it's in 23 and there's a 60 or 90-day lag after rates start to come down and the printing press starts to create more money. They just approved a $1.7 trillion spending bill. So that money's got to go somewhere, right? And then before the presidential election, basically all of 24 is going to be hype cycle about Biden being the best president since Washington or something, right? So we're going to hear those narratives in the public realm. So I think 23 cents across both platforms, sure. I could see 23 cents across both platforms. And I could see a dip where people bought at 30 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents, exiting out some degree. I don't know how many is volume, but some people will be like, hey, I'm out. Like, I got my ROI in PulseChain, I got my ROI in PulseX, and now I'm going to ROI out of Hex and just fend for myself in a different marketplace if they're going to speculate at all. So there will be some people that run to the exit, even in a price climb, once it passes their entry point. So I think 23 and 23 is reasonable for both. And I think a dip after that is fine. Coming down to 8 to 10 cents is fine. But everything to me still hinges as far as price up on V3 minimum will be a small bump. And then when, this 2-year delay from sacrifice to, or even the conversation before sacrifice to launch, when that's over and we actually have an L1 we can promote and a product that represents Bitcoin on a different network, then I think the sky's the limit. I think we can go very high.
I like it. See, you guys are even more bullish than me, so I will take it. So I'm usually known as the conservative one. Motley will attest to this on this show. So I like the 23 cents areas on, we have 2 chains that we're looking forward to too. So, well, cool. We've been around here for a couple hours now. Just want to, we'll wrap up here shortly. We'll shill ourselves, tell everyone where we can find you there. Funding Jim first, I guess we'll go to you.
It's the same spelling on every platform. If it's with an I, not an L, there's imposters everywhere. I'm the same spelling on all platforms. Pretty much Twitter's the only thing I pay attention to right now. Instagram I post occasionally, but I'm going to get back into my content generation when I'm stable in January through April. I'm going to be in one spot. So I'll be making more content then. And I'm going to talk more about the credit markets, how to access capital during the bear, whether it's to support yourself or insurance policy about, where you can access capital if you lose your job, or creating a new business. So it's the entrepreneurial drive. I'm going to be talking more about that. And then, preparing it with whatever speculative monies that you feel comfortable with, where you might consider putting that speculation money. So from like January until April, I'll be kind of one spot and make more content then, all on Funding Jim. And then April, I'm going to be going to, I don't know if the highest of stakes is going to be there, but it would be great if they did. I got invited to the Cannes Film Festival in France. So I'm going to go to that. There's some different events, celebrity events, things like that I'll be going to in April. And then in May, I got invited by a different person outside of crypto to an event in Greece. So mostly I'm stable in one spot and create content January through April.
Good stuff. Looking forward to it as well. Crypto Coffee, speaking of content creation, that's you, man. So
yeah,
dig all your videos and live streams. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I've only got 2 things. If you're brand new to crypto, hexpassiveincome.com is a one-stop shop course. It's got everything you need to take you, if you know nothing about crypto at all, to knowing everything about setting up your full Hex staking ladder. And obviously there's going to be a new version of that coming out after PulseChain launches, but you can either gift it to a friend, although I do know people tend to value things more when they pay for it themselves, but it's a great onboarding tool, guys. So if you either want to gift it to a friend, or you have somebody you want to onboard, but you don't want to spend a bunch of time holding their hand, hexpassiveincome.com. It's very, very cheap. There's a sale right now for the holidays. Relative to what you get, it's very, very cheap because it doesn't only tell you about Hex, but it starts from square one about security. If you know nothing at all about crypto, it's all the terminology. If we're speaking Greek to you up here, start with the course, right? Like that's a really good starting point, in my opinion. But if you're an OG veteran, you just want to support my channel or send me a Christmas gift, or if you send, the occasional $20 super chat, I've got a Patreon where you can spend $20 a month and get not only support me, but just get way more exclusive benefits as well. I give, exclusive content that's not on YouTube, one-on-one questions answered. You get my full attention if you've got any questions at all, or if you just want to collaborate about, maybe you've got some personal business ideas and stuff, we can collaborate in my chat room. What else do you get? You get a course coupon, you get shout outs, you get to actually influence what videos I make next. You have a lot of input into directing the future of the channel itself. So yeah, if you're a new guy, get the course, hexpassiveincome.com. If you're an OG or you just want to support or help out or be part of my community, patreon.com/cryptocoffee369. And it's also in my profile of all my YouTube videos. So patreon.com/cryptocoffee369. Appreciate all you guys. Happy holidays. Stay strong in the bear market, keep calm and just stake your hex.
Keep calm and stake on. So
Stake on, right?
There we go. Well, thank you guys for coming by and having what turned out to be a great chat for a couple hours. And hopefully a lot of people got a lot of value out of it because there were some great topics covered here. So thank you guys for that. And thank you, chat, once again, for being so active and posting questions, comments. I appreciate you guys. And yeah, it was a great turnout for a pre-Christmas, stream. So I was quite surprised and delighted by that. So thank you guys out there. Not sure what we're gonna do next week for show wise, but we'll figure it out. Might do one more before the end of the year. But yeah, just stay tuned in to Twitter. Hopefully we can get Eric Wall back next week. If not, the one after that. We're just waiting on his confirmation to reschedule once he gets better, since he's been sick all week. So stay tuned for that. And thank you, Wild SJ. And yeah, we'll call it quits for this week. Thank you, everybody. We will see you either next week or the one after that. If you don't hear from me, Merry Christmas, happy drink beer, all that stuff, and take care of yourselves. See ya.